Good afternoon. You're very welcome to the program. You're listening to SIRAJ ZAIDI until 4 o'clock. And this is your own Apna radio broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. Indeed, another show, another week, another discussion about the world, the time, and the space we are existing in the heat, should I say, the summer heat, because Dublin is blasting with the heat. Never experienced the heat like this before. Anyway, we are here in the studio, and I don't know where you are listening to me from in the world, in the globe. If you're in India or whatever, you are most welcome to the program. Anywhere you're listening, you're most welcome to the program. Without further ado, we start the program with the news item, as you know, news of the week, as we call it. And Charmaine Colvin is here in the studio to take you a tour of the news. So sit back, relax, and listen to what's going on in India.
Good afternoon, I'm Charmaine Colvin, and you are listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. On India this week, Jio Platforms, the telecom unit of billionaire Mukesh Ambani's Reliance Industries, has announced what analysts say could be one of India's biggest share sales. The company's board has approved a draft prospectus for the initial public offering, Ambani said at Reliance's annual shareholder meeting on Friday. India's largest telecom operator, which has more than 500 million subscribers, is expected to raise around $4 billion, according to media reports. Investors will be watching the listing closely as a test of appetite for new offerings after months of volatility in the country's stock market. The proposed listing of Jio will demonstrate to the world that India can build technology companies of global scale, global capability and global value, Ambani, one of the world's richest men, said. Launched in 2016, Jio shook up India's telecom sector with low-cost mobile data plans, soon racking up millions of users. The company has since expanded into areas including cloud computing, enterprise services and artificial intelligence. Last year, Jio and rival Bharti Airtel signed separate deals with Elon Musk's SpaceX to bring the Starlink internet service to India. The IPO comes after a year-long wait for Jio to go public. Last year, Ambani had said the company would be listed in the first half of 2026. While details of the offer price and valuation have not yet been disclosed, media reports have estimated that the NSE IPO could raise around more than $3 billion. Together, the Jio and NSE listings would be among India's largest IPOs in recent years, rivaling Hyundai Motor India's $3.3 billion blockbuster share sale 2 years ago. Earlier this month, Meta announced it would lease capacity at an AI-enabled data centre being built by Reliance in the western state of Gujarat. The facility is expected to have a capacity of 168 megawatts. The agreement builds on a partnership that began in 2020 when Meta invested $5.7 billion in Jio. Since then, the companies have broadened their collaboration, including initiatives aimed at making Meta's open-source AI models more accessible to Indian businesses and developers. India and the United States have discussed pathways to conclude an interim trade deal, the Indian government said in a statement on Wednesday, after talks between its Trade Minister, Piyush Goyal, and US Trade Representative Jameson Greer. Greer, the top US trade diplomat, is in India for 2-day talks over a deal seen as crucial to mending bilateral ties amid diplomatic tensions. His trip follows the first meeting in more than a year between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump on June the 17th on the sidelines of the G7 summit. The two sides have made substantial progress in trade talks in recent months, the Indian government said, adding they were committed to an agreement that is balanced and commercially meaningful. An initial understanding on trade was reached in February, but uncertainty persists over a continuing US Section 301 probe into alleged overcapacity and forced labour. Under the deal, New Delhi is seeking a competitive tariff edge over regional peers. In February, the two sides agreed to 18% tariffs on Indian goods in exchange for New Delhi lowering trade barriers and buying more American goods. But a final deal was clouded by the US Supreme Court ruling invalidating Trump's sweeping global tariffs. After India, Greer is scheduled to visit Uzbekistan, where he will meet President Shavkat Mirziyoyev and other top officials to discuss trade ties with the United States. Earlier in the day, Goyal said in a social media post that the two sides reviewed the progress of the ongoing India-US trade discussions. I appreciate Ambassador Greer's leadership and the sustained efforts of both teams in advancing our discussions in a constructive and forward-looking manner, Goyal said. The meeting was important as the two countries are aiming at salvaging and recalibrating the proposed agreement after changes in US tariff policy upended a framework deal finalised earlier this year. The cockroaches will not be squashed, according to Abhijit Dipka, the founder of a new political movement aimed at Gen Z youth in India. On Tuesday, the Cockroach Janta Party, CJP, extended their protest in central New Delhi to a fourth day, demanding the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, the country's education minister. A dead-of-night social media post by the CJP said, "Cockroaches are awake and fighting the system," and claimed that Delhi police were trying to squeeze the demonstrators out of their protest space near the Indian Parliament. The 30-year-old Dipka has turned the lowly cockroach into a potent and viral symbol for young Indians who are impatient over a lack of well-paying jobs and angry about a scandal over national exams. "I don't think we're here to topple the government. All we want is to change the political discourse of India," Dipka said. On Sunday, 2 million students aspiring to get into medical school were forced to rewrite the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test, formerly known as the All India Pre-Medical Test, they'd sweated over last month after it was revealed that test questions had been widely leaked. The Education Ministry cancelled the results. It's not the first examination controversy, and the Indian government is under pressure to clean up national testing. Indian media reported that at least 12 students have died from suicide since the first exams in May. The CJP is demanding some families receive compensation from the government in the wake of these deaths. Pradhan, the National Education Minister, said that they are the B team of disruptive elements. Those who were rejected in the democracy have come in disguise and are now after the system, he said. They raise slogans for those who want to divide the country. They have been identified. India has what's called a demographic dividend. Youth aged 15 to 29 make up 27% of the population, translating into about 371 million people, the largest youth demographic in the world. "We had a great opportunity to turn this young population into a workforce, but the government has failed to do so because it has misplaced priorities," Dipka said. He said its priorities are more about grabbing power, trying to break parties, and win elections by hook and crook. In May, while finishing his degree at Boston University, Dipka picked up on growing resentment over comments made by India's Chief Justice, Surya Kant, in court about some unemployed youth. "Have you seen there are youngsters who are like cockroaches? They don't get employment. They don't have any place in the profession. Some of them become social media activists," Kant said. The justice later defended himself by saying his remarks were explicitly aimed at people practicing with fake or bogus degrees, but the damage was done. Dipka seized on the cockroach as a satirical mascot for a youth party of the lazy and unemployed. Images he posted on X and then Instagram went viral, sparking memes, songs and masks. Within days, the CJP had more followers than the BJP party, India's ruling party. Within weeks, the CJP boasted 22 million followers on Instagram. A video installation at the National Portrait Gallery has been withdrawn after a row over Winston Churchill's role in the Bengal famine. The 40-minute video by artist Helen Cummock at the Central London Gallery has referred to the willful starvation of the Indian population by Winston Churchill in the 1943 famine. It prompted an open letter to the gallery from Lord Roberts of Belgravia, a Churchill biographer, signed by more than 50 peers, including Churchill's grandson, Sir Nicholas Soames, saying this was incorrect. Cummock, a Turner Prize-winning artist, said in a statement on Monday, "There is an incredible pressure on artists and arts institutions to bend to external pressure, to be benign at best and silent at worst. I do not accept this pressure. To question, challenge and explore ideas and histories is vital to a healthy society, and art is intrinsic to this." An estimated 3 million people died in eastern India in the Bengal famine, but the nature of the wartime British Prime Minister's role in it has long been subject to academic dispute. And that's all from me. You have been listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Thank you so much indeed, Charmaine, for a great news item for this week. That is, cockroaches are everywhere. And it is a cockroach party, in fact, a youth party, which is making waves in India because they are sick and tired of the frustration of the government of India, in fact, and they don't know what to do. The exams the careers have been, has been played around and all that. So that is a big issue, in fact. But that's not the only one. There are many other issues that are in a country like India, which is obviously, 1.5 billion people and all that is happening. But what can I say? I mean, the global situation is deteriorating in terms of what's going on in the world. And I'm going to talk about the deal that has been talked about it. The deal is with the Middle Eastern deal and all that. So this is something which is very dear to my heart, because this is, when you look at the news every day, when you look at the newspapers, and when you read and when you analyze what's going on globally, you realize that things are not that good, as rosy as it appears to be in life. And so the breaking news is that Iran says the US has released some frozen Iranian funds as part of a wider deal. But the agreement is now at risk over Lebanon. What is Lebanon is the bone of contention for right now, because impunity is the word with which the Israel is bombing Lebanon for no reason. I mean, hello, the peace deal is done, but nobody can harness Benjamin Netanyahu. This is the bottom line. And that baffles me. That baffles me that one individual, a despicable, horrible individual who has no credibility and credentials in the global political game, political stand, his warrant for arrest warrant is by the International Court of Justice and all that. But this guy is continuing bombing innocent people in Lebanon after Gaza. He wants to destroy. Of course, he wants to go to Iran, but he's been slapped back on his face so strongly and so hard that he will remember the rest of his life. Not to take. There's a word in Hindi called panga. Panga means pig fight. Don't take panga with Iran. Don't take pig fight with Iran, because Iran will hit back to you in such a way that you will never forget the rest of your 5 generations. Anyway, Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, says that the United States has now released some frozen fund, Iranian assets that was agreed as a part of the deal that has been signed. Well, not the deal, but the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, in Geneva. And several major steps as part of the latest talk with Tehran. According to Araghchi, the US has agreed to move ahead with $300 billion reconstruction package, allow Iran to continue exporting oil and petrochemicals, and lift the naval blockade. That is a big thing, because naval blockade is really brought them to their knees. Otherwise, it's a masterstroke Iran has played. In fact, otherwise they would have taken over Iran. They would have been bombarding Iran and things like that. But no, Iran has actually showed how intelligent, how educated they are to negotiate, and they blocked. And we have agreed here, we have actually covered here in the program, the interview with with the Iranian ambassador, Ishaq al-Habib, on this issue. He said that we said all along that if two things will happen, if Iran will be attacked, two things will happen. If they attack, American will attack. We will close down the whole Hormuz, the narrow choke point, and we would do whatever, and we'll try to actually eliminate the U.S. bases in and around, sitting around us. And they did both of these things. He said that a 60-day roadmap has been agreed on this final deal. That 2 months period has been cooling off period, in which a roadmap. Iran says that that the roadmap will not begin unless Israel fully withdraws from southern Lebanon, and all fighting there must be stopped. Now, that's not happening. So obviously the deal is in jeopardy. And if the deal is in jeopardy, they're actually said that new Lebanon deconfliction cell has been created, and called it the first real test for the deal. The real test for the deal is the actual stoppage of the bombing of Lebanon. I mean, poor Lebanese, what do they... the pretext is, yes, we are trying to actually go after Hezbollah. But Hezbollah you cannot touch because they are somewhere else. They're not there. Southern Lebanon is something... I mean, if you look at it, that is the expansion policy of Israel. Expand. Go beyond, West Bank and Gaza. Gaza has been dismantled. And Sharad has actually covered quite a few things about children of Gaza and population of Gaza. So the problem is that Israel has refused to withdraw. And that is what it is. How can, even Donald Trump cannot. They have a tiff. In fact, recently Donald Trump and all that. So this is something which is they are refusing. And Defense Minister Israel Katz says that Israeli forces will remain in the security zone in the southern Lebanon, while Itamar Ben-Gvir has also rejected any withdrawal. So if the withdrawal is rejected, then the deal will be rejected, and there will be no deal, because that means the entire agreement could be stuck before it even began. And this is the world's first condition of moving forward: Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon and the end of fighting, completely halting the fight and all the rest of it. So, I mean, one thing, it's clear that the world is paying attention a little bit. The World United Nations have come up with another report, and Sharad has got a beautiful report given by about the children. It's a global issue about the children of the world, but he starts with that for the children of Gaza, and how systematically the children of Gaza has been killed impunitively from Gaza by the Israelis. So sit back, relax, and listen to the analysis done by Sharad Awasthi.
If you look at the world today, either we are talking about war, or the leaders are talking about economic deals, business deals, and some kind of growth rate. But then in the background, we are forgetting one of the most important and vulnerable population of the world. As of June 2026 this year, a couple of days ago, a United Nations Commission of Inquiry, it said that Israel has deliberately targeted Palestinian children, resulting in genocide, crime against humanity, and war crimes in Gaza Strip, as well as war crimes in the occupied West Bank. This new report alleges that Israeli authorities and security forces have deliberately acted out against inflicting death and severely bodily and mental harms on hundreds of thousands of Palestinian children, and that these killings continued even after last year's October ceasefire in Gaza. Now, the Commission, it further says that there are reasonable grounds to conclude that these acts form part of deliberate strategy to destroy the future of Palestinians in Gaza by targeting their children. So, the United Nations Commission calls it a genocide, and this is consequential. On the other side, on 28th of February, the day one of US-Israel war on Iran, it witnessed one of the saddest and tragic days, where 168 young primary school-going girls were hit by the missile and killed. So children have come into the forefront of war. So this gives me a reflection to see what's happening in India. And this brings in to the situation where India, although growing at 7.7% GDP as they say, children in India are no better than living under a cruel society and being treated as slaves. Whether it is brick kilns and the construction industry across Bihar, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Punjab, where children under age of 14 are deployed to mix clay, carry heavy stacks of molded bricks on their head, or to fire higher temperature kilns for brick production. And as a consequence, these children face chronic respiratory illness due to dust inhalation, and of course, they are cut off from the formal education system. And there are tens of thousands of children who are accompanying their migrating parents to work in these brick production factories. Then there is this carpet belt in Uttar Pradesh, Mirzapur, Jaunpur, Bhadohi. So these are where, again, children are made to work 12 hours a day in cramped and poorly illuminated and under-ventilated pits. And why they are employed? Because it is claimed that their nimble fingers are necessary to tie the intricate high-density knots in carpet weaving. Again, this child labor is responsible for large export facilities. And this practice has shifted deeper into the homes in the West, where these carpets are sold for earning forex to India. The same is the case of zari embroidery and garment manufacturing, where embroideries and sewing buttons and packing garments in these small workshops. About 100,000 children operate, and these are all hidden garment workshops in Delhi and Mumbai. And the boys are trafficked actually from rural communities under deceptive terms. So this is again a large scale child labor intensive industry which is surviving in Mumbai, Delhi, Surat. Again, we are seeing industries like hand-rolled tobacco leaf cigarettes called bidi. And this is prevalent in Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal. Highly decentralized and relies basically on home-based piece rate production. Again, thousands of children are employed and they spend hours blending tobacco, rolling it into the tobacco tendu leaves and then tying them with thread. Again, this industry is hazardous due to structural nature of the work, and children face continuous direct exposure to fine tobacco dust, which without, of course, protective equipment, it causes high rate of nicotine absorption and again, chronic respiratory diseases. The same is the case in commercial agriculture. 60% of child labor in India that broadly occurs in agricultural sector in India in the production of hybrid cotton seeds, and that's concentrated in Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat and Karnataka. And here we see that children, and especially the girls aged 6 to 14, they are hired due to their height, which makes them appropriately leveled with the cotton flowers. And of course, being girl child, the relative wage rates are lower. India celebrates all its occasion with fireworks, and in Tamil Nadu, Sivakasi district, it produces 90% of the country's fireworks. And again, here children handle volatile chemical compositions, which include sulfur, aluminium powder, and of course gunpowder. Why forget the Firozabad glass and bangle manufacturing small-scale industries and factories, where children often work in front of open blast furnaces operating about 1300 degrees Celsius with molten glass and glowing wires. And this intense heat mixed with silica dust and broken glass fragments. Of course, not only is it a safety issue, but it's a health issue because of higher rate of chronic burns, respiratory diseases, and even vision loss. So somewhere I read that the average age of workers in these glass and manufacturing factories in India is not beyond 35 years. This is unconfirmed, but then this is what I heard. We should also not forget the thousands of waste pickers and scrap sorting workers, which also include children in large cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai. And altogether, this has raised a parallel informal economy in the country. So children are picking metals, glasses, circuit boards, and then they break down these electronic items into copper and gold. And this process of chemical extraction of these expensive precious metals is driving these children into this waste picking and e-waste recycling industry. And here the risk is about sharp medical waste hurting these children, or their exposure to heavy metals as lead and mercury. And of course, when they are extracting the copper and gold from the electronic waste, it's the toxic fumes from burning plastic. And these are all causes of permanent neurological damages and heavy metal poisoning. These are just few of the examples where children of India are exposed to informal working sectors of economy, which constitute about 7.7% growth rate, for which the Indian government and the Economist of India seems to be proud of. So the persistence of child labor remains a significant development challenge, and it's a deep-seated socio-economic inequality. And when India is closing down about 100,000 schools, attacking the education system, which is supposed to be free until the age of 14, making it more expensive, child labor is a consequential outcome of this economic policy, of this education policy. And how many children are we talking about? Data from International Labour Organization and UNICEF that indicates approximately 138 million children, 13.8 crore Indian children remain engaged in child labor. So there is a history of children being used as a supplementary income The British textile mills, coal mines, plantations, and cottage handicraft, it relied heavily on low-cost child labor, obviously to maximize profit. And this historical trajectory closely mirrored the industrial development phases of even the G7 countries. So if you see that during the 18th and the 19th century in the United Kingdom and United States, they also relied on child labor to fuel their textile and mining sector. But then they took up these institutional reforms. In India, it continued, although after 1947, the Constitution of India explicitly safeguards children under Article 21A, which establishes the right to education, guaranteeing free and compulsory education for all children aged 6 to 14. Article 24, it prohibits the employment of children under the age of 14 in any hazardous factory or employment. And still we see, as I listed out, just few of them, that children in thousands continue to work in hazardous factories. And then Article 39F, it directs the state policy towards ensuring that children are given support, opportunities to develop in a healthy manner and are protected against exploitation. But these are laws, this is constitution, which do not work so effectively on the ground. These constitutional mandates do have statutory frameworks like Child and Adolescent Labor Prohibition Regulation Act, which imposes a complete ban on employment of children under 14 in all occupations. But then there is a slight loophole there. If it's a family business, children are allowed to work if it is non-hazardous. And that's where you see children working in carpet factories, in textiles, in tailoring, in manufacturing of hand-rolled cigarettes, so on. According to the last census, 2011 census I'm talking about, the current one is going on, it recorded 10 million economically active children in the age group of 5 to 14. Now that is some 15 years ago. The numbers would have changed, but then for our reference, that number, howsoever discounted it might be, it's way too high for a country which today aspires to be inside the G7, to call itself a developed country. So where are these children broadly working? India is dependent on 45 to 60% on agriculture. And that's where children are employed as unpaid family labor or for seasonal farming, livestock rearing. And in the process, they are exposed to agrochemicals. But more painful is the domestic services that children offer as domestic workers. Roadside dhabas and restaurants, in garages and automotive repair workshop, and in highly normalized way, urban street vending. Street food that we see, we always see a child accompanying that kiosk, that thela, and that constitutes about 30% of the national share. So the situation is really dark. And if you observe, this is because of the informal economy and the failure of the regulatory enforcement. And these two cannot go together. Even today, India has 80 to 90% of total workforce which operates within unorganized or informal sector. And because the transactions are happening outside the regulatory framework, child labor often falls through the cracks. It can be obscured within the family-run farms and businesses and family-run home-based small-scale industries, or like we discussed, the unregistered urban workshops. So there is a disparity if somebody says India is getting into the G7. Other G7 countries have 90% of the workers operating in formal contracts, and there are strict tax compliances and laws governing the labors. And of course, there is strict labor inspection. So there is a socio-economic driver, along with economics of informal sector, which is bringing children into the economic stream of society. And because the low income households in India, they see it as an opportunity cost of removing the children from education and bringing them into the work stream in order to supplement the household income. And especially when there is a problem with the adult wage earner, maybe falling sick or due to death or due to crop failure. And as we see currently, the high cost of living due to the war in Middle East. All these factors, whether seasonal or prolonged, children become an automatic source of generating additional income or marginal income into the family, into the household. So while this strategy may stabilize household consumption, in long term, this has a severe consequence on the child's health, mental well-being, and the future of the country. And no wonder that children dropout rate in last decade is the highest in India. Because somewhere it is linked to the economic growth of India, not by the GDP numbers, but by the actual effect on the ground. So India may have something like Right to Education Act of 2009, which to some extent had been expanded successfully. But then there is a clear deficit in learning outcomes. And as we have seen, the high student to teacher ratio combined with inadequate skill training that has pulled out the children from school into more meaningful economic activity. So the problem is complex, it's multi-layered, but then we are not seeing a national level debate of this issue. The national headlines of the country should be screaming out loud about the child labor atrocities in this country, but we rarely see those headlines. We haven't spoken about this topic even through the one-sided discussion of the Prime Minister of India in his address to the nation as Man Ki Baat or his Independence Day speech. We have already heard 12 of them, and that is a serious concern for India as a society. But then we have ray of hope. We see people like Nobel laureate Kailash Satyarthi, who had worked hard since 1980s to rescue children from bondage, from child labor, from child slavery, and had been instrumental in inspiring hundreds of governments to frame regulations to protect the children of their own countries, to create something like Right to Education in India. And his contribution in building this framework is helping international policy advocacy, and it has shifted the problem of child labor from localized India-centric socio-economic issue to universal recognized human rights violation. And that is one positive step for all the children of the world. And in the process, he has rescued more than 100,000 children from the bondage servitude and trafficking. So there is a ray of hope when people like Kailash Satyarthi and many other NGOs are working towards a very important, crucial and vulnerable sections of the society called children. With those thoughts, I leave you until next week. Stay safe, stay informed, dutifully ask questions. At the end of the day, somebody has to stand up. Bye for now.
Dublin South FM.
You wouldn't buy a car without knowing its history. So why would you buy a story without knowing who's telling it? Come here and I tell you. It's not always easy to verify what you see, read or hear. But now there's help. Visit www.bemediasmart.ie. Stop, think, check. Be Media Smart. Brought to you by Media Literacy Ireland, supported by RTE.
93.9 Dublin South FM.
Indeed, 93.9 Dublin South FM, and welcome back to the programme. And you're listening to Siraj until 4 o'clock local time and until 9:30 India time. And hopefully you'll stay with me for the rest of the programme, because today is the 9th of Muharram. 9th of Muharram means that tomorrow is the day of Ashura, which is the 10th day of Muharram. I've covered this program actually last week. A little bit of background history on the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, who has been commemorated every year on this day of the month, on the 10th day of each year in the month of Muharram. So we are worldwide commemorating here in Dublin as well. And so therefore, I would be introducing you to a little bit of tracks which are all about the martyrdom of Imam Hussein on the 10th day which is falling tomorrow. And the full program is going to be conducted at the local Milltown Ahlul Bayt Islamic Centre and things like that. So most welcome if you are around, if you're listening, local listeners, you're most welcome. Anybody could walk in, anybody could listen, anybody could see what's going on there. It's a community event, and that's what the community radio is all about. Anyway, this is the first track I'm going to play, and then I will be talking about some other issues.
करबला की मत्ती तुझे सलाम करबला की मत्ती तुझे सलाम तेरे दामन में वो सजदा बसा हुआ है जिसने इस्लाम को जिंदा रखा हुआ है। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम। जहाँ प्यासे लोगों ने सब्र का दर्स दिया, जहाँ हक के लिए घर का घर लुटा दिया, जहाँ असगर ने तीर खा के मुस्कुराया था, जहाँ अकबर ने मैदान में सर कटाया था, वो रेत आज भी आंसुओं से भीगी है। हर एक जर्रा शहादत की गवाही है। मैं जब भी तेरा तस्वीर दिल में लाता हूँ, गम शबीर में खुद को भूल जाता हूँ। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम। ओ तेरे जर्रे जर्रे में नूर बसता है। हर मुसाफिर को यहाँ सुकून मिलता है। जिसने दिल से तेरा नाम पुकारा है, उस पे शब्बीर का करम होता है। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम। ए शहीदों की बस्ती तुझे सलाम। सकीना रात भर बाबा को ढूंढती रही, अंधेरों में सदा देती रही, रोती रही। कहाँ हो बाबा, मुझे नींद आ नहीं सकती। तुम्हारे बगैर ये रात गुजर नहीं सकती। ये सुन के चांद भी बदल में छुप गया होगा। फलक का दिल भी उस लम्हे तड़प गया होगा। यातीम बच्चियों के आंसुओं की वो बरसात अभी तलक है ज़माने के दिल पे एक जख्म। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम। वो नहरे अलकामा भी उदास लगती है। अब्बास की वफा आज भी पुकारती है। मश्क हाथों में लिए जब वो चले होंगे, फरिश्ते भी उन्हें देख कर रोए होंगे। कटे जो बाजू तो परचम गिरा नहीं उनका। वफा का नाम जमाने से मिटा नहीं उनका। हर एक दिल में अब्बास आज भी जिंदा है। वफा के फूल उन्हीं के नाम से खिलते हैं। तेरे जर्रे जर्रे में नूर बसता है। हर मुसाफिर को यहाँ सुकून मिलता है। जिसने दिल से तेरा नाम पुकारा है, उस पे शब्बीर का करम होता है। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम। है शाहिदों की बस्ती तुझे सलाम। नेज़े पे कुरान की तिलावत का वो मंजर सुना के दुनिया को रुला गया था सरवार। यजीदियत के अंधेरों को मिटा कर उसे हक का दिया बन के चमक उठे। ये करबला का सफर खत्म नहीं होता। हुसे वालों का सर झुकता नहीं होता। जो सच के रास्ते पे चलना सीख लेता है, वो मौत से भी कभी डर नहीं हर एक अश्क में करबल का एहसास होता है। मैं जब भी जिक्र हुसैन मजलूम करता हूँ, खुद अपने गम को भी भूल जाता हूँ। सलाम उस पे जो सजदे में सर कटा गया, सलाम उस पे जो इस्लाम को बचा गया, सलाम उस पे जिसे दीन का सहारा कहे, सलाम उस पे जिसे हम इमामे आला कहे। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम, ए हुसैन की बस्ती तुझे सलाम। तेरे दामन में शहादत के गुल खिलते हैं, तेरी खुशबू से मोहब्बत के दिए जलते हैं। करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम, करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम। या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, करबला की मट्टी।
जी मेरे भाइयों, करबला की मट्टी तुझे सलाम. This is a beautiful track by Noor Pari. Who's Noor Pari? She's a popular singer, and she is indeed talking about a wonderful track which I came across somebody have forwarded to me, and I'm happy to share quite a few tracks last year, about that, because the various poets and various lyricists have written for centuries about Karbala, Imam Hussein, Muharram, and all that. So this is fantastic, and it's a beautiful track, and a very passionately, articulated by, and in fact sung by. I shouldn't say sung, but this is what it is. It's a track and sung by this popular singer. Anyway, that's going to be fantastic, occasion in many ways, because fantastic in such a way that it's throughout the world, and it's a beautiful message. The people who all around the world are spreading that message, and I'll do my best through this program, through my own radio program, to spread that. Now, Karbala ki kahani, that's another thing, that what it is exactly, although I'd been telling that for quite some time, but here is a track I'm talking about in a nutshell for a few minutes. So I'll stay with that. Sit back, relax, and listen to this, please.
करबला का था गम सीने में लिए, एक सदा उठी थी कूफे से कभी, जुल्म के सामने झुकना नहीं है, खून शब्बीर का बदला है अभी। या हुसैन, या हुसैन, मुख्तार ने पुकारा था, ऐ गमज़दा अहले वफा, उठो के वक्त आ पहुंचा है, मांगेगा हुए करबला है, अश्कों से जो बुझी ना थी, दिल में वो आग जलती थी, ज़ैनब की बेकरार सदा, रूह में उसकी बस्ती थी, मजलिस में भूला न जाएगा ये सितम, जब जब तक है सांस इस सीने में लूंगा मैं कातिलों से कसम हाय कूफे की गलियों ने देखा कैसा वो दिन सुहाना था जब नामे हुसैन लेकर मुख्तार मैदान में आया था नारा था याली सारा दिल हुसैन गूंजा था फिजाओं में लर्ज़े थे दिल जालिमों के खौफ था उनकी सदाओं में ज़ैनब के आंसुओं का हिसाब लेने चला था वो दिलदार मजलूमों की उम्मीद बना हक का बना था वो अलमदार कहते हैं आज भी अहले अज़ा एहसान तेरा भूले नहीं शब्बीर के गमख्वार मुख्तार तेरे किस्से पुराने नहीं हाय सलाम उस वफादार पे हा जो दर्द का साथी बन गया करबला वालों की खातिर तारीख का रोशन बाब बन गया मुख्तार मुख्तार या नासिरे हुसैन मुख्तार मुख्तार या नासिरे हुसैन मुख्तार
That is also very, very powerful track about that, and the time is really ticking off. And what I wanted to talk about is that tomorrow is going to be the 10th day of Ashura, and where people will commemorate, take out the processions, and do all sorts of activities remembering Imam Hussein, eulogies, and things like that. So this is going to be another memorable Ashura. This year, Ashura is different in many ways because Iran, which took the lead in defeating the United States of America in 100 Days War, are practically our Shia people. And they really are commemorating, the Muharram this year in a different light, what I would say. In a different shades, because they are planning, in fact, they have invited Mr. Modi to the procession, which is planned to take place, in fact, officially a state funeral. In fact, international, heads of estates are invited. And so is Mr. Modi from India is invited as well, despite the fact that they have actually played a sinister role in sinking Iris Dina, the military ship, the peaceful military ship, which was invited by the India, taking part in the Vishakhapatnam location. 75, I think, countries have participated in this peaceful mission of peace and security in sea. Ironically, peace and security in sea, my eye, because what they did was they literally inform the Americans and the American torpedoes, American submarine, which was also off the coast of Sri Lanka. As soon as the ship left and wanted to return back to Iran, it was struck by the torpedo and it was sank in the world waters off the coast of Sri Lanka. Now, that is something, a cost of 100 million to 200 million is the cost of that particular ship. Hard to estimate exactly, but it was a brand new ship. And 15 people were just, 150 people were crew members were there, which over 100 people died. Only 30 people has been rescued by the Sri Lankan, the rescue mission people. So, the world is going from crisis to crisis, and when we talk about the war and peace, where do you begin? Where do you begin? Is it a war or a peace? It is never going to end. Will ever this world will be at peace with each other? Will there be any time, a date, a month, a year in the calendar year where there is no war in the world? Impossible to happen, because what's happening at the European doorstep, again, I don't have to talk about that, European doorstep with the Ukraine and Russia, is another gruesome war is taking place, and it's not halting at all. And that is something which is really is upsetting, and of course costing massive amount of money to the world. Zelensky has cleverly sucked in the European monies and the European, Parliament and Europe into the war. And it's costing Europe a significant amount of money to fund the Ukrainian-Russian war. For how long Ukrainian can fight with the Russians, mighty Russians? And this is what it is, that war sometime comes to an end, as it happened in Second World War, as it happened in First World War. But I'm obsessed with the war and peace. What is peace? What is war? Last year, my film festival, by the way, which is happening again in September, from 11th to 14th of September, is returning back to, but there's plenty of time to talk about that, but not plenty actually. It's only 2 months left, just over 2 months. That the last year's theme was peace in the world. Make films, not war. And where I have taken this phrase from. Anyway, this is something which is very, very dear to my heart. And I would like to say thank you for listening. I have one more track to play before I say goodbye. And this is relevant for tomorrow, which is Ashura. So there's a very pathos, full of sorrow, and a very, very poignant, punching voice of this particular track. So sit back, relax, and just pay attention to this particular one. It is a very, very important track that I always play on the day of Ashura or close to that. So bye for now. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.
किनारा कह देगा जो बात के असगर कह ना सके बहता हुआ दरिया कह देगा किस तरह जवानी खाक हुई लैला का कलेजा कह देगा बहते हुए आंसू कह देंगे उतरा हुआ चेहरा कह देगा अहमद की नवासी कालम उठता हुआ पर्दा कह देगा किस तरह छिनी सर से चादर जलता हुआ खैमा कह देगा किस तरह राहों की उदासी कह देगी उजड़ा हुआ झूला कह देगा अकबर की अजल आई पहले या बरछी का फल निकला पहले शबीर की किस्मत कह देगी अकबर का कलेजा कह देगा उम्मत के लिए असगर आए
जी भाइयों, that is it. And Ashur ka Suraj keh dega. And that finishes the program. And I must say thank you once again for listening to the program. And you may share that program with anybody and everybody you want to share it. It's a special program for the 10th day of Ashura, which is falling tomorrow on Friday. And that is the reason for doing this, a special program on Ashura. So bye for now. And once again, very, very many thanks for listening to my program. Hope to see you next week. Bye for now.
पानी ना मिला प्यासे ही गए चुप होगी अगर नन्ही सी लहद उजड़ा हुआ झूला कह देगा हर गाम पे ठोकर खा खा कर जब बाप पे सर को ढूंढेगा किस समत है